What's in a shape? Pretty much everything. I mean, the only difference between a container and a box is the shape. But what if you think outside the box? And that's exactly what you have to do in a segment as competitive as the compact SUVs. From 3 rows of seats to diesels, hybrids, dark editions, and everything in between, everything has been tried in an effort to get your attention. Everything except this. An SUV with the roofline of a coupe SUV. And if you haven't been living under a rock, then you've probably already watched Breaking Bad, and then you would already know that it was the Pontiac Aztek and not the BMW X6 that first tried this and then later succeeded by ranking on most of the world's ugliest car lists. BMW, on the other hand, have tried for 16 years to make the X6 look nice, and I still don't think they've succeeded. Citroen though, I think they've done all right with the Basalt. Yes, the wheels are small, the glass area is too tall, and the taillights stick out a bit too much when viewed at just the right or wrong angle. But overall, it's a design that does its job. It stands out. It makes heads turn. I like small improvements like the LED headlights in the front and the colored bar that goes across as well. The former is also going to be on the C3 and the C3 Aircross soon, and I know it seems to be missing a rear wiper, but the GLC 43 AMG Coupe that I drove last week didn't have one, neither does the Lamborghini Urus, and neither does Ferrari's Puro Sangue. It's just one of those coupe SUV things. Things seem well and good with the Basalt then. The 180mm ground clearance should put the "bro, this is a sedan" claim to rest, and at an expected starting price of 8.5 to 9 lakh rupees, this seems like a bargain, especially when you compare it to those crore plus rupee Fusion SUVs. Look, I'm not trying to say that this is like a cheap Urus, because an Urus is known for two things: speed and performance. Citroen though has a single point agenda, which is why these seats are wonderfully cushioned. There's acres of space in the rear despite the sloping roofline, and they've also given a really interesting adjustable thigh support feature, which actually works really well. The Basalt then, like a retired chemistry teacher trying to buy a car wash in cash, is almost too good to be true. Almost. Because of course some corners have been cut. The French, they can make a baguette, but they can't seem to spec a car perfectly for India. The Basalt gets no ADAS, no keyless entry, no push-button start, no automatic wipers, no sunroof. And while these are no deal breakers individually, altogether, I'm not so sure. Thankfully though, it's not all bad, because compared to the C3 Aircross we drove a few months back, the rear window switches are now finally in the right place. Only the French could take 2 whole cars to get something like this right. And here's something most spec sheets or journalists might not tell you. While ventilated seats are a miss, the air conditioning is brilliant, and that's quite an underrated feature in a country like ours. Speaking of the AC, there are rear AC vents, an actual armrest in the front, a massive boot in the back. The ORVMs are electric, and yes, the air conditioning is automatic. The gearbox too, it's automatic, and it's a good, smooth shifting automatic. What's also smooth is the 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine that this shares with the C3 Aircross. It's certainly not the fastest, but it's quick enough for both city and highway driving situations, and the manual is not a bad choice either. Speaking of choice, interestingly, Citroen's going to be offering this with a choice of a naturally aspirated petrol engine. So if you really don't like driving and you really like this design and the practicality of the Basalt, that should be an affordable way to bring it home.
But like I said, Citroën might as well be the French word for comfort, and the ride is superbly comfortable. Whether you're hitting potholes or forgetting to brake for speed breakers, there always seems to be a warm, fluffy croissant between it and you. And to enhance this experience further, Apollo offers the Aptera Cross range of tires that offer great ride comfort, handling, braking, and superior mileage and durability. That said, let's get back to the Basalt.
It genuinely drives really well. It's perfect for long highway journeys and there's just a lovely balance to the entire thing. Of course, I would like to tell you more about how it drives, but the steering, it only speaks French and it speaks it very slowly. So there is some time lost in translation between you telling the steering where you want to go and the car actually heading in that direction. But unless you're out looking for driving pleasure, in which case I suggest you look elsewhere, that's not really a deal breaker. So then, the Basalt is better styled than its rivals. It's surprisingly got the basics right in terms of equipment, and while you don't have to go far to find a cheap surface, this won't be a very expensive car either. There are a couple of concerns though. There's no diesel, and unlike the Grand Vitara and the Hyrider, there is no hybrid either. The feature list is still skinny and there is the fat problem of Citroen's recent crash test results. Now I know that crash test results don't directly equate to safety, but there are other 5-star rated SUVs in this segment and ones that offer ADAS as well. But a buying decision can't be based on one factor alone. It's a pros and cons list. And with the Basalt, Citroen's definitely added a pro in terms of its design while reducing most of the cons that we had with the C3 Aircross. Now, whether design is important to you or not is your decision to make. But for me, this finally feels like a well-thought, well-rounded product from Citroen. And if they price it right, starting at about 8 lakh rupees and going up to about 15 lakh rupees, coupe SUV or not, this could shape up to be the first real contender from Citroen in India. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the unscripted part of the video. You guys have liked this in the past, so here it is again. I just want to say, I just wish Citroen went the extra mile, you know. They've done all the right things, like they've certainly been listening. It's a step in the right direction for sure. Like, for example, the window switches that all of us journalists have complained about and customers have complained about, they fixed it and they're going to be fixing it on the C3 and the C3 Aircross as well. The lack of LED headlights is also something they're addressing. So, sure, they are listening. I just feel if they just went a step further, it would have really, it would have really elevated the entire experience. Like the plastics in some places are still fairly poor. Like down here by the dashboard, even on this brand new car, like the plastics don't quite line up and there's lots of like hard open edges, and yeah, I just feel like if they just went the extra mile, it would have been fine. The wipers aren't like those premium wipers that you get on European cars. They're like those thin wipers that you usually often see on the Japanese cars, and that feeling of premiumness is still not there. Even though they fixed a lot of stuff, I just wish they went the extra mile just improve the plastics overall. This shifter, for example, it's one of those old school automatic column sort of shifters and you have to go through the gates, and I just wish it was just a straight shifter like how it is on most modern automatics. It's small stuff, but at least for me, and you let me know if you guys agree with this, all of this sort of adds up and overall gives the car a feeling and an air of cost cutting that I wish wasn't there. It's there, but I wish it wasn't there. It's definitely a step up on the C3 and the C3 Aircross, like those, especially the C3 Aircross for the segment that it was competing in. I felt it was just a little bit too much corner cutting in places. This is better. For example, bigger wheels. I mean, you're going for that coupe SUV style, just give it bigger wheels, 17 inches, 18 inches, come on. Like 16 inches is way too small for a car or an SUV that's supposed to be design forward. Overall though, I think it's nice. It's probably one of the best Citroens in India, or at least probably one of the best made for India Citroens. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Neither does the Lamborghini Urus and neither does Ferrari's Purosangue. It's just one of those coupe SUV things. Let's redo the PTC. भैंस है क्या फ्रेम में? This could be the first contender from Citroen in India. The dogs seem to like it for sure. कुत्ता आ गया ना? वो PTC में भी एक फंबल था, ठीक है, फिर से करते हैं.